ครับก็เจริญพรนะครับนอกจากทางคอมเมนเตอร์แล้วก็ผู้เข้าร่วมฟอรัมทุกท่านนะครับเนาะสำหรับผมนะครับเนาะก็
Good
จะมา
afternoon, everyone. Hello, the commentators and also the audience who is participating in this. Today, I'm going to present the Salak Yom Festival in Lamphun Province. So, Salak Yom Festival. So, I would like to use the local dialect. So, Salak Yom is the festival which comes from the Lana culture from the northern part of Thailand. So they have this annual ceremony on which is called Salak Yom. So it depends on whether you want to hold the Salak Yom festival for somebody who's passed away or somebody who's still a living person. And back in the days, the historical background was very clear. So it used to be a very empowering festival for women. So it used to be the women who leads this festival, and so back in the days, the men's role are very clear in the way that they become monks. So only men can become Buddhist monks. So therefore, they came up with the idea that actually women can also partake in the same equivalent religious ritual. And so they think, okay, something that's going to be very beautiful, something that's going to be very monastic, something that's going to require a lot of dedication. And we want women to also be able to do that. And so Salak Yom Festival was initiated. And for the different types of Salak Yom, you can see in the first image that is the Salak Yom, the top left. So it's higher than 5 meters. So it's from 5 to 12 meters. And at the very top, you can see the wood is colored. And then you bind it with the Salak Yom tree. And then here in the middle picture, the Salak Khao Song. And one of the specific characteristic is that the Lana, it's the Lana people, the northern, they like something, they call it a bit fat or chubby. So that's the characteristic. It's a bit chubby in the Salak itself. And Salak Jo, it's like a small tree. So it needs to be beautified. So actually, the person who wants to give Salak Yom off, they have to know who is dedicated for. It can also be both for the living person or the person who is passed away. And Goi Salak. So what are the specific Goi Salak? So the specific type and the shape. Okay, you can say Goi Kipom, which is a bit chubby. It's a bit round. And also you have Goi Tinjang. And also the other type, which you can see here. So the name also differs as to what objects would be put inside, and also on the top you can say here it would be the basic needs, the basic object for the basic needs of the monks, and for fruits and vegetables. And for the objects inside Salak Yom, so besides fruits and vegetables, and also the objects for daily usage, and now a lot of things had evolved, and so before so now a lot of adaptations had been made. So instead of just giving fresh food or vegetables, now a lot of processed food also is given inside the Salak Yom, so they can keep and has longer shelf life. And Salak Yom, you consider it as like a house, all the elements as a house should have. And galong, it's a type of a narrative. So it's one of the 6 methods of storytelling in the Lana region. So it's one of the way in which they express their narratives. So the galong would be the story of the women who create the Salak Yom. So it talks about the background and the story of the life of that particular woman. And so it talks about the people and also the person and dedicated their time into making the Salak Yom. So that's the dedication to the living person. So this is a local wisdom. So he is going to read the story. and he's gonna read a story that was posted.
ช่วยกันอุดหนุนเพื่อหวังกางบุญเป็นทุนฝ่ายนา
So it talks about all the dedications and the merit makings is going to preserve for the future merits. Fruits, the tasty fruits that's inside the Salak Yom. Mangoes, mangosteens, durians, coming from different regions. So this is an example. So that was an example of the narratives and how part of the Salak Yom festival, you need to have that aspect, which is the song. And okay, the value of Salak Yom, it creates this harmonization of the community, and also it teaches an individual to sacrifice for the greater goods, for the society, for the community. And in terms of sustainability, you also have environmental management, and also you use the local produce and the natural produce to create Salak Yom tree. Also the decorations and the adornments are also found and sourced locally. And for identity, you have like the people who want to partake the ownership, it's also that's they can express their identity through that. And for economic values, it also bring a lot of income to local markets and the makers. And is this cultural heritage at the risk of endangerment? And currently it is at risk. Therefore, it needs to be safeguarded in an urgent manner, because currently the numbers of Salak Yom festival had reduced quite significantly. And furthermore, the women who understands the ceremony, it's disappearing very quickly. So therefore, in order to safeguard it, we also need to pass on this knowledge so that people understand the value and importance of Salak Yom festival. This is Salak Kapat from Myanmar. So you have to differentiate. It's very different. Salak Yom and Salak Kapat, it's also very different. So Salak Kapat is something that can be anything. So there's a lot of variations of Salak Kapat. Salak Yom has one specific unique, which is at the very top end. You dye the wood, right? So that's the Thai Salak Yom. But Salak Kapat, you can put everything in there, right? So it could be, this kind of like offerings to the monks, anything that we can bind. So in Myanmar, it's called Salak Kapat, so it's kind of different. And they only provide during the Kapansa season. So in Burmese, that's Salewang Bawa. So they have the very specific season in which they do it. And it also had been adjusted, but actually in Myanmar, it's also reduced as well. It's losing much more significant, and less people are doing it. And there are new ceremonies that's being introduced, especially in some cities. And so from discussing with the community, they want to build this knowledge hub. They want to build a learning center so that people can understand about Salak Yom festival and the cultures that goes behind it. So in transmitting and in transferring these bodies of knowledge, we need a lot of the cultural heritage and those who are the who preserves and safeguards it. So we would benefit from that. And what we would need, okay, the location would be at a temple, and we can learn about how to make it, and also the beliefs and the process in which the offering is made, and also the local wisdom, the local crafts, the local bags that's made from a type of palm tree, or some type of a container to put rice in, which is also made from a species of palm tree by land, for example. And the process to disseminate, we can also use websites. We can have QR codes to link to the online information, because currently if we there's not that many websites that focus on Salak Yom and the background. A lot of it focuses on tourism, right? But not on the background knowledge of Salak Yom. And community participation. So Salak Yom, it's something that requires a lot of community engagement and community participation. So we have Prak Kru Thawan Gamakit, who is the abbot from Sibangwan Temple, who's the leader in the revitalization of Salak Yom Festival. And we also have Samrit Mahayot, who is also another leader in the safeguarding and preservation of Salak Yom Festival. So these are the names of the leaders. And these are the images of us going to the community. And so this is also another local member who wants to talk about Salak Yom Festival. Miss Nongkran Chittawan. So I have a question. You have been involved in the making of Salak Yom Festival. Have you been involved for a long time? Yes, since my parents' generation. And another question that I have is, you have also experienced, since you were very young, since you were a young child, you were involved in the process of making. So my question is, have you ever seen the differences between the Salak Yom tree back in the days and now? What's the difference? Yes. So before we use a lot of things that are locally found, locally sourced, you have like a bee and all these kind of things, you know, like even the fruits and vegetables, we find them. That's inside our garden. But now it's different. So that was a very short video clip. And that's the result of our community visit. And actually the video is longer, but due to the time limitations, I think for the Salak Yom Festival or for Lamphun would end right there. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, sir. If I can invite Kun Shupit, please. Actually, I had prepared something to share, but I prepared for the Sabat Chai drums, but there is one point in which I would like to share, which is the meaning of Sabat Chai drums. So actually the name itself, it means war, Sabat Chai. So it means the war drums, and the drums aims to bring victories. So it also means beyond just the war between one person to the next, but also the war against evil. So the significant point of the Sabat Chai drum being inside a temple is also to fight against the demons and the evil to get out of the temple. And I think that is also one aspect to it. And also I think there's a lot of potential opportunities that we can host and we can make it grand. For example, like the Korean drumming festival, we can also make it as big as that. And like to diminish the evil, I think that is something that we can consider and think in addition. And another part is the instruments. So I think we also need to talk about the historical backgrounds of each of the elements, whether it's from the drums, where it was made, how it was made, how did they source the things to make the drums, the different parts. And there was this one village leader in Chiang Mai. So at night, he sees the teenagers going out riding bicycles at night and ride bikes at night. And that's kind of dangerous because it leads to a lot of road traffic injuries. So the village leader had gathered all of these youth and convinced them to start from the drumming. And so they taught, and you know, like and they won. So therefore, I mean, now a lot of them are they're much better. And I think that's one thing And I think that it's a very good initiative to support youth, and it changes their perceptions, it changes their attitude, and it's also make them more physically active. And the videos that you use, I think you kind of need to give credits to those who make it. So you also need to put in the names of where you took those videos from. And for Salak Yom, in which the novice, the Samanera, the novice Buddhist monk had mentioned it. So actually, the fact that it started from women's work, women-focused Salak Yom festival, and it had been shared amongst the community. And I think the presentation, there's still a lot of things that are missing. For example, the Salak Yom tree itself. You need craftsmen in there. There's so many dedicated craftsmen involved, whether those who create all of these little adornments, the decorations, the top of the Salak Yom. It's so beautiful. Like if you can see it, it's so delicate and it's beautiful. And I think if the image focus more on those details, it would be great. And also the different singings, the types, there are several different lyrics and also the different ways in which they can express. And also there's the band and also those who are cooking and those who are involved in the food making process. And I think these are also part of the festival, and these are also important elements to Salak Yom Festival. So if Samanera, if you can please try to combine the other factors, you can see the density and how much the community dedicates themselves in as part of this Salak Yom festival. But for the Salak Chai drumming, I go back to this one community, which is Diaka, and they have this kind of a swing ritual. So it's a belief that's so closely linked to their spiritual ceremony. And so what happened is there are so many tourists coming in, so they do it every day instead of just like once a year. And like sometimes once they get on this ritual swing, then they are paid 10 baht for the tourists, and that kind of in itself destroys the sacredness. So despite the fact that we can use that as part of the performing arts, and we should not lose the main significance of it as being part of the ritual. So thank you so much. Yes, can I invite Kun Vilani next, please? Thank you. Greetings, Asamanera. I am from Chiang Mai. You are from Lamphun. Let us speak the northern dialect. So I have to say that this Salak Yom festival, I see it, it's part of the culture that's being shared across the Lanna region. And for your presentation, you focus only on Sirindhorn temple. Yes. Yes. So, but I'm not focusing only on my temple, but I'm talking about the Lamphun province as a whole. So you're talking about the identity of the Lamphun. So actually, when you talk about Salak Kapat, then a lot of people think about the northern people. So they already have this tradition that passed on. And I do agree very much that we need to have to safeguard this culture and transfer and transmit this knowledge to the next generation. So for example, Salak Kapat, I think a lot of people go to the temple or during special ceremony, you always bring Salak Kapat. And I want to give some comments because I see that in your PowerPoint, you talk about community participation. And community participation, as a commentator, I also want to see also the participation from different stakeholders, right, in the process in which they create this heritage, right? I don't want to see the names only, but I also want to see how each person's do, right? So I want to know what are their roles and how they were involved. I think that's my request. And for the video clip, actually, I was so prepared to listen to it, but it wasn't loud enough. The quality of the voice, I didn't understand the question. I didn't understand. She was loud. but also those who doesn't understand the northern dialect, you might need to have some subtitles so they can understand what is being said. And that's all I want to say.
ขอบคุณค่ะค่ะเรียนเชิญคุณธนง
Thank
ชัยค่ะ
you. So next, Kun Thanomchai, please. Very quickly. So I have to apologize in advance if I say something wrong, because I'm not very, so I want to ask you, what is your intention? You want to preserve Salak Yom tradition, or do you want to increase the number of people who come to the temple to give offerings? Well, actually, I want to publicize Salak Yom Festival beyond just for the tourism attraction, because actually Salak Yom Festival is something that is very important and it's good. But as we see, a lot of times it focuses more on the tourism aspects rather than safeguarding or preserving the festival. So therefore, if you want to increase tourism aspects and increase of income, then the next question is, I mean, I had also attended one festival of Salak Yom, and I went to Pratha Sirindhorn temple, which is a very popular temple in Lamphun. And okay, to be honest, like you have a lot of different levels of places in Lamphun and a lot of popularity which differs. So if you want to talk about Salak Yom, then you have to know. So for your temple, what's the name? Sibangwan, yes. So you might need to find your own identity, because like when I talk about business, when I put on my business hat, I mean, if it could be interesting if you can collaborate with the UN Women or the Government Savings Bank, because in the past, Salak Yom Festival used to focus on women, used to be for women. So based on studies, actually, the women are the ones who can keep money better than men. So therefore, the Government Savings Bank, if they focus on this group, then they would get more customers. And at the same time, it increases gender equality. So I'm just thinking about business now. So I'm just going to try to increase the customers for the Government Savings Bank. And I think that's also, you can make that sustainable in terms of the business side as well. And when you talk about tourism, I think a lot of the Salak Yom festival differs and they have their own identity. So if you go to Pratha Sirindhorn temple, they would think that, oh, wow, that's the authentic Salak Yom festival. I should be there. I would gain more merits going there. So I think for you, you also need to find the highlights and your uniqueness from your temple. And because this process in itself, it's really interesting. It's something that's the craftsman and it only stays there. And that's like very specific to your temple. And I'm just thinking more about the opportunities in which you can just, gather more women to do savings and whatever, so that they can also safeguard their own culture and at the same time they maintain their traditional values, and then also to partnership with local banks. I think that's also possible.
ค่ะต่อยอด
Yes.
ต่อยอดขอบคุณ
So yes, that's a lot. Yes.
ต้นสลักต้นหนึ่งก็คือเหมือนกับเก็บ
Yes, because one salak yom is not cheap.
ค่ะ
Some of them are millions. Yeah. Yes.
ค่ะขอบคุณมากค่ะ
Yes. Thank you so much, the commentators, and also thank you so much, Samanera.